We're back for our best player props here for week number 12, or week number 11, excuse me, of the NFL season. We've got best player props for Sunday and the Monday Night Football game as well, so stay tuned for that. But earlier today, we posted our 5 best spreads and money lines for the week number 11 NFL schedule, so make sure to go check that out. That's going to be linked in the description down below, along with our full week 11 predictions. Going to be predicted every single game on Wednesday, so make sure again to check that out. Both those videos are linked in the description down below. Also, again, here on the channel, daily NBA and college basketball best bets. Right now is UFC 322, so go make sure to check out our full card predictions for that. The main card is coming up in a couple hours, so go make sure to check out who we have winning the main event between Islam Makhachev and Jack Della Maddalena for the welterweight championship. Now, folks, before we get into the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more NFL best bets here on the channel. Again, every single week we do this, so let's now move on to the first of our 5 best bets this week, kicking things off with famous Jameis. All right. Jameis Winston. Unfortunately, there is no snow, so he's not going to be playing in some snow this week in East Rutherford, New Jersey. At least I'm pretty sure there's no snow in the forecast. Or unless I would say, the Lord has blessed Jameis Winston to play in some snow today. Instead, the Giants are at home against the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, Jameis is going over 228 yards. Come on now. Jameis yet to appear in a game this season. You know what Jameis Winston does. And I didn't include this in our best spreads / money lines video earlier today, but I mentioned it, but I didn't, it wasn't an official bet. I think the Giants cover 7.5. I think quite easily. The Packers are playing horribly right now, and I get it, the Giants are very injured right now. You would love to have Jackson Dart playing, but Jameis in a one-game spot, he's going to find a way. Trust me, Jameis is going to find a way. Will he throw a bunch of interceptions? 100%. Jameis Winston last year for the Browns on 296 passing attempts threw 13 touchdowns and 12 picks. Career-wise, Jameis Winston has 154 touchdowns and 111 interceptions. It's just what Jameis Winston does, but he launches the football. He's not afraid to take chances, and that's okay. Guys, Jameis Winston last year was finding ways to have big statistical games for the Cleveland Browns at the end of the season. The Cleveland Browns can't move the football. Those Cleveland Browns. Jameis threw for 500 yards on a Monday night game in Denver against the Broncos. Yeah, he's going to be okay here, guys. And sure, in that game, too, Jameis threw 3 picks and 4 touchdowns. That's a Jameis Winston football game. I can almost guarantee you he's going to go over 228. The Packers defense, I know they held, Jalen Hurts to low yardage, but that's the Eagles, and we say it all the time with the Eagles. They are a confusing team. Some weeks they really allow Jalen Hurts to, actually be a NFL quarterback and throw for big yardage and look to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And other weeks they say, all right, you're a running back this week. Go hand the ball off to Saquon. We're going to run you on a designated run, and then tush push. Right, so Eagles, I wouldn't lean anything on what happened last week between Philadelphia and Green Bay. It was a very odd, low-scoring affair. The game went into halftime 0-0. Ultimately, Philadelphia wins at 10-7. But we could throw everything out the window when we're talking about Jameis Winston. And he's going to have a depleted receiving core this week. So beyond, obviously, the Malik Neighbors injury and Cam Skattebo, obviously, in the run game being both out for the season, and Skattebo and Neighbors, Darius Slayton is out this week as well. Had him in fantasy and, was stashing him all year long. Not stashing him, but I was holding him at the bottom of my roster. And the 1 week I need him with the Michael Pittman bye week, he's not even playing. Slayton's out the hamstring injury. I would have loved to have Slayton with Jameis Winston throwing him the football, but I guess not. So instead, the receiving core is going to look like Wan'Dale Robinson, who's had a pretty big year, Gunnar Olszewski, Jalen Hyatt from, obviously, Tennessee, and I guess Isaiah Hodgins from Oregon State, who, how many career yards does Isaiah Hodgins have? 600? That's fine. I'm telling you, Jameis is going to find a way. I mean, hell, they have their tight end in Theo Johnson and tight ends in Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger. Awesome. It's a game where, again, I think New York's going to be trailing. I don't really love their run game without Scat. There were games, obviously, like Scat, huge, player for this team. Guys, Scat never broke 100 yards rushing in a single game. He was obviously a major factor, and you always had a concern. If you were playing against the Giants, where is Skattebo? How can we stop Scat? Obviously, because he runs really hard. The O-line's not very good. They don't run block very well, and, Skattebo's not playing. So it's Tyrone Tracy. Their most effective runner, usually, going forward now, is Jackson Dart. So you take their best runner away, and now it's okay. Now it's just Tracy. What makes Tracy kind of dangerous is Jackson Dart's ability in the backfield. But take that away now. We know Jameis is not going to tuck it and run. So I don't think the Giants are going to try to fool anybody this week. It's, all right, we're going to throw the ball over your head. Yeah, we know Jameis is going to throw some picks, but if he throws a pick, we're going to send him right back out there. And obviously the Giants, they are well aware of this. They could have started Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, who may have played himself out of the Hall of Fame. They could have started Russ this week. Russ is a very experienced guy. I don't know if they like his experience anymore. But they said, you know what? We're going to go to Jameis instead. We fully understand he's going to turn the ball over. That's a given with Jameis Winston football. We don't give a damn. We're still going to start him. So the Giants obviously feel comfortable with Jameis. I know Jameis is not a game where Jameis Winston is not comfortable. He will sling it. He does not give a damn. So I'm going to go with famous Jameis here this week. Give me Jameis Winston over 228.5 passing yards against the Packers, who are playing very poor football. I understand their last two games, both Jalen Hurts and Bryce Young did not go over this line. They are not Jameis Winston. So give me famous Jameis here at home in East Rutherford. Also bonus play plus 7.5 for the New York Football Giants. On now to our next best bet. Oh, there he is. Bryce Young. How fitting. Bryce Young. Oh my goodness. We just... Jameis over 228. Bryce Young under 162.5 passing yards. That doesn't feel real, but it is. I'm taking Bryce Young to go over this low line. I mean, if you remember on Thursday Night Football, Justin Fields' passing line was at, 102, I think? Around that mark, and he only threw for 116. Did he go over? I don't know if it was actually at 102. It was something really low. Yeah, it's a really low line for Bryce Young. I completely understand. Guys, the Panthers don't throw the ball. And whether it's a confidence thing in Bryce Young, whether it be, Bryce Young's not the best pure passer, the receiving core not being that great, other than obviously Ted McMillan, the Panthers are a run-first team. And that's really all they're looking to do with Rico Dowdle. And yes, I guess Chuba Hubbard is kind of involved too, but it's Rico Dowdle's team. He's the number one running back. Dowdle is now third in the NFL in rushing yards. Had a bad week last week, we can say, against the New Orleans Saints. And that's the thing. The Panthers had a bad offensive week last week, but you'd think, okay, they're losing against the Saints. That means our game script is going to call for a lot of Bryce Young. Actually, 18 carries for Rico Dowdle is a low number. It's a low bar. So you'd expect, okay, well, Bryce Young's just going to throw the ball quite a bit. It didn't really go that well. Well, no, they tried to, but he didn't. They only threw the ball 25 times. I don't understand. It's just, what does this team do? Bryce Young goes 17 for 25 passing for 124 yards. Young barely cracks more than 25 passing attempts per game. Look at his last 4 games. Bryce Young does not throw more than 25 balls in any of them. His high in these 4 games, against the Dallas Cowboys, where he goes 17 for 25 passing for 199 yards. Week after against the Jets, 15 for 25 against the Jets. Again, for 138 yards. Against the Packers, 11 for 20 for 102 yards. And the Saints game, 17 for 25 for 124 yards. The Panthers just don't have the ball that much. They don't have the ball that much. They rely on their defense, and they rely on their run game. The Panthers go into games thinking, okay, we need to shorten the game as much as possible, and we need to win a defensive showdown. Hell, look at their last 3 games. Played with Bryce Young starting. I know the Andy Dalton games in there. We're not going to count that because they got blown out by the Bills. But the last 3 games Bryce Young has started, they've all been super low-scoring games. Neither team has scored 20 points in the last 3 Bryce Young games. 13-6 against the Jets, 16-33 against the Packers, 17-7 L at home against the New Orleans Saints. I mean, questions are being asked now, is Bryce Young really the franchise quarterback? And those questions were asked last year. Bryce Young played his way out of those conversations last season, but now the conversations need to be had again. And with the quarterback carousel, obviously, that continues to keep revolving every single offseason. There's going to be pieces. There's going to be players that, there are going to be quarterbacks that are going to want starting jobs that can come to Carolina. I don't believe the Panthers go rookie. I don't think that's their solution. You just tried a rookie quarterback. It did not work. I think if you're a team that you pick a rookie quarterback and they fail, and you start a young quarterback and it fails, a homegrown talent at that, then you got to go veteran after. And if the veteran doesn't work, then you go back in the draft. But if I'm the Panthers, I go after a vet next season, and the 2 easiest options, and the 2 guys who are going to be very available in the offseason. Actually, there's 3. I'll say all 3. Joe Flacco. I know he's 40, but he's better than Andy Dalton, and he can start. You can go Kyler Murray. There's a commitment to Kyler Murray because he's got a contract behind him, but not many years left. There's also Mac Jones, who is playing his way right now into a starting job in the NFL. Those are your guys, and obviously, you can look at No, I'm not going to bring up Kirk. There's no reason to bring up Kirk Cousins. You can look at a Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. No, he's on another year. Yeah, there's really nobody left. Tua, you look at Tua. I don't think Tua is a solution in Carolina. So I believe, again, your options, if you want to go veteran, which I think they should, I think it's really Kyler Murray or Joe Flacco. I think, again, I've said it before, I think Mac Jones is going to go to Arizona. So again, there's a big emphasis on Bryce Young. He's got to show that he can win. But the thing is, the Panthers are winning, just not because of Bryce Young. They're winning because of the run game. They're winning because of the defense. They beat the Falcons earlier this season, and they won 30-0. How many passing yards does Bryce Young have in the game? 100? 121 to be exact, on 16 for 24 passing. Dowdle had a big game, but Bryce Young didn't have a big game. The defense played well. Or I thought it was Chuba, actually. That was still in the Chuba era. Yeah, guys, the Panthers, even they could win this game. It doesn't matter. I don't think they're going to beat Atlanta at home. Or on the road. I don't think they're going to. But they can win, and still, Bryce not going to play well. They beat the Packers, and Bryce Young threw for 102 yards. And over half those yards are to Ted McMillan, by the way. So I think we're completely fine here, man. Bryce Young it's a crazy line for an NFL quarterback, but yes, Bryce Young under 162.5 passing yards. I think his days as a starting quarterback are limited, considering Carolina sees a team right now, they're 5-5. If you had a better quarterback, you're probably 6-4 right now, and you're talking about playoffs, and instead, you, again, are still 500, but you feel like your season's already over by now. So I think you have to move on in the offseason. Not saying you get rid of Bryce Young. Maybe you do. Maybe just go straight change of scenery. You send Bryce Young to Arizona, Kyler Murray comes into Carolina. Or, again, maybe you just sit Bryce Young for a year behind Joe Flacco. I don't know. Regardless, I think this is close to the end of the Bryce Young starting era, at least right now. And I'm going with this under this week against the Falcons. Next up, we move on to potentially the biggest game of the week over in Los Angeles, California, between the Los Angeles Rams and the Seattle Seahawks. An absolutely massive game. I think the Rams win, and I think a big reason why they win will be their standout receiver, one of the best receivers in all of the National Football League, that, of course, being Puka Nacua. Nacua is third in the NFL in receiving yards this season, obviously behind the Seattle Seahawks, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's already cracked 1,000, and obviously Jamar Chase as well, who's having a monster year with Joe Burrow / Joe Flacco and the garbage time yards he got with Jake Browning. But Puka Nacua, third in the NFL in receiving yards with 775. He has taken a step back as of late because of the injuries, back-to-back weeks. Or I guess he still had 95 yards in the Saints game, but 64 yards only against the Niners because, Puka is still getting back to full health and getting back into the swing of things. Got injured in the Saints game, got injured in the Ravens game. In a game like this, the Rams are going to absolutely need Puka Nacua. I think this game has potential to be a straight shootout. We'll see. I have a feeling the Seahawks offense is not going to totally rise to the occasion. I know the Rams are, though. And right now, I don't know if there's a defense in the league that can stop the Rams. The way that they're playing and the way that they've played the last 3 weeks against San Francisco, New Orleans, and Jacksonville, I get those aren't the best defenses, but Jacksonville, not a horrible defense. Matthew Stafford and the Rams have ran right through these guys. I expect them to do the same against the Seahawks this week. I really think so. I think the Seahawks have been good this season, obviously. The JSN and Darnold run's been great. This is where they get it, I think. And I think it's going to be because of the Rams. And obviously a big reason for that, again, why is this relevant? Well, Puka Nacua is going to be a major reason why the Rams win this week. So the line this week for Nacua is 87.5 receiving yards. Well, in a game that he got hurt against the Saints, he still had 95 on 7 catches. I mean, you look at the games Puka's had, we can go over every single one of them. At the beginning of the year, yes, at the beginning of the year, Puka was way more dominant than he is now. Obviously, Puka's just dealt with some injuries, and he's, thankfully, he's still playing, obviously, because Nacua has dealt with his fair share of injuries throughout his time at BYU and now, obviously, in the NFL. But the run Nacua went on at the beginning of the season. 10 catches, 130 yards against the Texans. 8 catches, 91 yards against the Titans. 11 catches, 112 yards against the Eagles. 13 catches, 170 yards against the Colts. And then, obviously, you get down to the 85-yard game against the Niners on 10 catches. Obviously, the game he got injured against Baltimore. 7 catches, 95 yards against the Saints. And then 5 catches for 64 yards against the Niners. Really, everyone else beat San Francisco. They were able to give the ball to Devontae Adams. Kyren Williams was very dominant in the run game as well. Obviously, Stafford just had a night, too. But they are going to absolutely need Puka Nacua in a game where it's really going to matter, and this is a game that's going to not just determine who wins the NFC West, but potentially who is the number 1 seed in the NFC this season. The Rams absolutely need their biggest receiver to come through, and Matthew Stafford in a big game. I've watched Matthew Stafford my entire life. Matthew Stafford, for the most part, has been a starting quarterback in the NFL. What does Matthew Stafford do? He eyes in on one receiver. And sure, he's kind of, he's making 2 reads now. Okay, Puka, Devontae Adams. Puka, Devontae Adams, check down Kyren Williams. But in a big game, we know what Stafford does. he gets the ball to his number one guy. That's like, again, not to discredit what Cooper Kupp did. Obviously, Cooper Kupp had an all-time season with the Rams. You could argue Cooper Kupp maybe should have won the MVP one year at the Rams. But obviously, the reason why Cooper Kupp got so much volume and the reason why Cooper Kupp had so many targets and so many yards was because of how Matthew Stafford operates. I said at the beginning of the year that was exactly what was going to happen with Puka Nacua. And look at him go. No Cooper Kupp. Obviously, last year, again, Kupp was, he has McQueen is fading type year. But Puka Nacua, third in catches in the NFL, third in yards in the NFL. 66 catches for 775 yards this season. He will be fine this week. Seattle secondary, Baker Mayfield completely torched them. Don't forget about that. Yes, they've shut down the Cardinals, Commanders, Texans, and Jags. Ooh. Okay. I'm not really too impressed with the Jags offense right now. Texans offense has been horrible all year long. Washington's offense has sucked recently. And, they pressured Jacoby Brissett and beat up on the Cardinals. The last real offense to play the Seahawks and good offense to play the Seahawks was the Bucs. And Baker threw for 350 yards and won the game in Seattle. Stafford's going to obliterate this team, and Puka will as well. So Puka Nacua over 87.5 receiving yards at home against the Seattle Seahawks. On now to our fourth best bet of the video, we move to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Sunday Night Football in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We've got the Detroit Lions taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Give me Amon-Ra St. Brown to go over. It's another one of these spots, man. My reasoning is kind of similar, honestly, to the Eagles game. Or sorry, not the Eagles game, the Puka and the Rams game. Okay, Amon-Ra, it's a big game. This game means a lot, too. This is going to be a huge tiebreaker right now in the NFC. And actually, if the Lions win, I believe if Detroit wins on Sunday, regardless of who wins that Seahawks game, I believe, Detroit's going to be the number 2 seed. Regardless, Detroit's going to be the number 2 seed in the NFC, and they still have a game coming up against Los Angeles where they can overtake them and obviously become the number 1 seed later on. So it's an absolutely massive game for the Lions. It's the difference between 7-3 and 6-4. It's a huge turning point game, and I don't think the Eagles are that great at the same time. My point, though, here why we're taking Amon-Ra St. Brown is kind of relative to why we took Puka Nacua. It's a big spot. I don't think Stafford eyes in on his best receiver nearly as much as Matthew Stafford does, but it's a big game, and big-time players make big-time plays in these type of spots. And Amon-Ra St. Brown has been nothing but consistent this season for the Detroit Lions. We want to talk about top receivers in the NFL. Obviously, Amon-Ra is not top 3, but he's top 5. So if we want to extend the top 3, obviously, with JSN, Chase, and Puka, 4 is George Pickens, obviously, with the Cowboys, and 5 is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra so far this season, 64 catches. That's 4th in the NFL for 693 yards and 8 touchdowns, 8 receiving touchdowns, the second most in the league. Again, big-time players make big-time plays in these type of games. Amon-Ra St. Brown last week against the Commanders only had 58 yards. It was not a game, though, where they needed Amon-Ra for 4 quarters. They need Amon-Ra now for 4 quarters this game. What I mean by that last week, the game was over in the third. Hell, they had the president on the broadcast, and the president said the game was over in the third quarter, essentially. So, that kind of goes to show, what that game was last week. The game was over fairly early. Amon-Ra will be needed for 4 quarters. The Lions will be needing to make big drives for 4 quarters. And asking Amon-Ra to only get 73 yards is not really that much, which, by the way, Goff's second favorite target, at least downfield target's not playing this week. And that's Sam Laporta. What I mean by downfield target is basically non-running backs. So, Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, Khalif Raymond, Isaac Tesla, Sam Laporta. No Laporta this week. So it is, obviously, again, we will see extended reps, I think, for obviously Brock Wright if he plays at the tight end position, but obviously you're going to see, I think, an increase in catches for James Williams, and probably the biggest increase and biggest bump will probably be with Khalif Raymond. But at the same time, Amon-Ra is going to get a crap ton of targets tonight. I know Amon-Ra's high in targets this year is 13. I think we see upwards of 12, maybe more. I think upwards, I think we see 12/13, 14, 15 targets this week. And I think we see almost, potentially double-digit catches this week for Amon-Ra St. Brown as well. Again, he doesn't go over this line against Washington, but look what he does against Minnesota and Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, 6 catches on 10 targets for 86 yards. Against Minnesota, 9 catches on 13 targets for 97 yards. Against the Bengals, 8 catches on 9 targets for 100 yards. And it's a game that I think ultimately I think the Eagles are going to lose this game because I don't think they can keep up with the production and the continuous volume of the Detroit Lions offense. They're going to continuously score the entire game, and I think it's going to be hell for Philadelphia. But at the same time, Detroit needs to keep scoring. So that's going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown downfield. Here comes 18-yard reception for Amon-Ra St. Brown. 15-yard reception to Amon-Ra St. Brown, working their way down the field. And I think Amon-Ra will go over this line this week. It's a big-time game, but I do believe a lot in Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's one of the premier receivers in all the National Football League. Top 5, top 10, regardless of where you put him. Again, Amon-Ra is just that good, and he finds ways to get open. And oh, by the way, it helps when he has an elite quarterback throwing to him, and one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League throwing to him. Obviously, that is Jared Goff. So I'm going to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown this week, over 72.5 receiving yards on the road on Sunday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a massive game for both teams, but a huge game for the Lions, especially, again, with the way the Packers are playing. They can really establish themselves as number one in the NFC this week, NFC North this week, and I think they will do absolutely that. And at the same time, Amon-Ra St. Brown will go over his line. So give me Amon-Ra, again, over 72.5 receiving yards. That is currently priced at -115. On to our final best bet of the video. Unfortunately, I don't have a line yet for this. I'm just going over Tyler Lockett. I don't really care what the line's at, and that's how much confidence I have in this. I probably have way too much confidence in 33-year-old Tyler Lockett in this spot. But guys, I have so much confidence that I am starting Tyler Lockett in both of my main leagues this week. I have 3 fantasy leagues. One's a dynasty with only 10 teams. So, obviously I'm not going to have Tyler Lockett, and my dynasty team's kind of set right now, so I wouldn't do that. But my 2 main 16-man leagues, I am starting Tyler Lockett this week. And now I'm doing that because of injuries and buys, like Darius Slayton, like I mentioned earlier, and then I got, Michael Pittman on bye week. I have Chris Godwin, who's still injured, so I wasn't really planning on starting a guy like Tyler Lockett, but I'm forced to start him this week. I'm starting Tyler Lockett in both of my main leagues this week. That's how much confidence I have in Lockett going over his line. I don't know what it's going to be at. I would take it all the way up to 39.5, like legitimately. I think Tyler Lockett's going to have 40 yards. I think he's going to have more. He's going to get in the end zone this week. And I'm serious about that. Guys, in a game where there was no offense being played last week, on Thursday Night Football at Mile High between the Broncos and Raiders, Geno Smith only had 143 yards. He would have had less than 100 if it was not for Tyler Lockett. Lockett in that game, 5 catches on 6 targets for 44 yards. He led the Raiders in targets and catches. Unbelievable for a 33-year-old who got released by the Titans, who doesn't take hits and just gets down immediately as he catches the football. I get it, that's Lockett's whole thing. But yeah, Tyler Lockett did that. That's already, I think, more yards than he had in his entire tenure with the Tennessee Titans, or at least close. I guess he had a 37-yard day for the Titans against the Colts, but really close to what he did in his entire career in Tennessee. Again, why he went to Tennessee in the first place, I don't know. I thought he was just going to go to Vegas immediately when he saw Pete Carroll was going to become the head coach for the Vegas Raiders, but he's found his way to the spot that we thought he was eventually going to find himself at. Okay, no Jacoby Myers. Trey Tucker obviously is going to get a lot of work, I assume. Brock Bowers as well, but really, Tyler Lockett's the number 2 receiver for the Raiders. He's on the field all the time. If Jacoby was still there, sure, okay, yeah, Lockett's a third. He's a distant third, I guess. But with what they're running now, yeah, Brock Bowers is obviously the number 1 option, but teams have full emphasis on taking away Brock Bowers, and I can almost guarantee you the Cowboys' game plan this week is take away Bowers. What Trey McBride did them a couple weeks ago on Monday Night Football, and this last game they played was Monday night, and Trey McBride had a really good game. You got to take away Brock Bowers, who is on that same level as McBride. I think McBride's slightly better, but they're both, again, 1A and 1B right now in the league at tight end. You got to find a way to take Bowers away. Who does that open up for? The receivers. Tyler Lockett in the slot is going to find ways to get yards this week. I mean, the Raiders are throwing out there Trey Tucker, Tyler Lockett, Jack Beck, the rookie out of Texas Christian, and Dante Thornton at the receiving core. It's not a star-studded receiving core at all. But there's going to be a lot of pressure on the Raiders to score and, pass this week, because you know what the Cowboys do. If I can guarantee the Cowboys are going to do anything, it's going to be they're going to score points, and they're going to push the ball downfield. And they're going to have a lot of success doing that against the Raiders. Games in Vegas, I'm telling you, it's going to feel like a Cowboys home game, I think, this week in Las Vegas. It's the first time the Cowboys have played a game at Allegiant Stadium. That's why it's on Monday Night Football, even though both these teams are 2-7, and what are the Cowboys? 3-6? 3-6? Are they 3-6? 3-5-1, right? Still, it's going to be a Cowboys home game. That's why it's on Monday night. The Cowboys are going to score. That's what they do. Raiders don't have the best defense. Yeah, they kind of pressure the quarterback some, but they held the Broncos to 10 points, but that's different. Dallas, their only thing that they have is offense. Dallas' defense sucks. And the only thing that they're going to do defensively this week is take away Brock Bowers. They're going to try to take away the check down for Geno. They brought in Quinnen Williams, obviously, and if they get pressure on Geno Smith, okay, where's Tyler Lockett? I'm telling you, that is a very inspiring performance Lockett put on last week. 6 targets, 5 catches, 44 yards. Highs in receiving yards, targets, and yards for Lockett. Unbelievable. At 33, Lockett's still doing his thing. I think he's going to go over whatever line presents itself this week. The reason there's no line yet is just because while I'm recording this video at 3 o'clock in the morning, obviously on early Saturday mornings, you're seeing this 14 hours after I'm recording it. The reason why there's no line is Lockett was just, given the okay to play. He was questionable going into the week. He's playing. So there's no, worry if he's going to play or not. I'm telling you, Lockett's going to have a big day against this pass defense with I assume, an emphasis on stopping Brock Bowers. Tyler Lockett's going to find himself in some good positions this week, and I do think Lockett's going to go over whatever line's presented. I would take it all the way up to 39.5. It's not going to be. It's going to be like 18.5. I think that's automatic for Tyler Lockett. So it's going to be the over on Lockett. I'm not saying like ladder it. I think that'd be kind of stupid, but maybe, honestly, I don't know. I really think Lockett's going to have a big day. It's an underrated play in my opinion. I think he's going to find himself really immersed in the offense, and either I look really smart here or really stupid, and I'll know because of my fantasy results as well. So we shall see. Folks, thank y'all for watching our 5 best player props here for week number 11 of the NFL season. If you have not yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. We'll be back next week again for more predictions and best bets for the NFL's week 12. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.